Hello there, everybody. This is Jeff C. It's Sunday, April 21st, 2013, and I have been looking into this Boston bombing. Of course, we originally did a story on it the night that it happened, and our initial sort of belief was that this was another false flag. Most likely connected to the Second Amendment or perhaps a war with Iran. A lot has come out since then. A lot of things have been revealed by the mainstream media and the government. We know now that the two suspects are, well, one of them is dead now. They're two brothers. And that one now is in custody, and he has a serious throat injury. He was shot in the throat, which I'm going to get into a little bit here. I went to take a look here on the Google search to see how this stuff is being reported. And as you can see, Boston bomb suspect may never be okay for questioning. I guess it's pretty convenient if you're framing somebody for something, using them as a pawn. I wonder how severe his wounds really are. The dead Boston bomb suspect had wounds head to toe. This is his brother here, right? So they had, according to the mainstream media, quite a battle with the police, and that the elder brother ran, or the younger brother ran over the elder brother at some point when he was fleeing the scene from a couple days ago. As you can see here, they're reporting bombing suspects plan further attacks. FBI's been releasing information, perhaps telling people that these people were very dangerous. The Boston bombers, Tsarnaev brothers, where the dots don't connect. That's RT. So anyways, thought I'd take a deeper look into this. To be perfectly honest with you, it's not fun to do this because the last thing that I want to do is get up in the morning, look at the headlines, and see that, oh, looks like another false flag has happened, you know. I mean, don't we get enough of them? It's pretty tiring. So I'm going to look into why this is perhaps a false flag. First thing I'm going to address here is that this is the ticker wire here coming in with the stories on Huffington Post. And they reported here that Dzhokhar Tsarnaev may have tried to commit suicide. So that was the one that they found in the boat in the guy's backyard, the big yacht. They're saying here that he might have tried to kill himself. I'm going to show you the video here that RT has up of the. Now imagine this is the robotic machine that they send in there. It looks like a tank or something. And they've got the heat rays. They can detect the heat signals here of you can see him moving around, or this is who they claim to be him. So as you see this truck here right up close. There, you see that? That was clearly a gunshot. Yeah, and that's not from inside, that's coming from outside, no doubt. And you'll see another one here. There, two shots right there. So anyways, they dragged the poor guy out, half dead. They shot him with snipers. It seemed like they knew where he was. He was very close by. Be interesting to see whose boat that is, and you know, if they have any connection to this whole thing. The whole story sounds so fantastic, and it's just, and it's full of holes, of course, and a lot of things don't add up. The victims' families, the victims. Here I am forgetting about the alleged bombing that happened, and forgetting that allegedly there's victims there, because we saw the photos, didn't we, folks? Right? But there's a lot of people now that are questioning a lot of those photos and a lot of the images that came out, whether or not there's some staging going on. So, I'm linked onto this page here, Heavy, and they've got 10 reasons or 10 facts that you need to know. So I'm going to look through these together. I haven't really looked at them before, but I know some of them already. The first one here is all dealing with gunpowder, and that the legislature that they're trying to push through while they're pushing through the gun grab is to make it really hard for anybody to be able to purchase gunpowder. So that this particular event might just be, I mean, it's never just one thing that they want to do with it. Obviously, they like to do many things with it, but this could be a very important element to what was going on. There was a tweet just after the bombs went off. You can see it here. Anonymous tweeter, but Anonymous picked it up and put it out. So I'm going to read it here on this page because it's a little bit hard to see and small there. Okay, so warning, laws being written to screw you. I work on a security commission, and I've just received word to start a campaign we've been working on for the last 2 months. And now it all makes sense. I'll keep it as short as I can. They're going to pin this event on a male late teens to early 20s and say he did it because he's unstable. They're going to find firearms and an NRA book in his home. They're going to say he used reloading powder for the explosion, and that reloading powder shouldn't be for sale to the public, right? Remember what I said before? They're going to say that because the powder in the ammunition can be used for explosives and the number of rounds you can buy should be limited and taxed to help pay for those events. And I don't know if you're like me, but I keep getting distracted by this girl here. I can't do anything or I'll lose my job and possibly face criminal charges. Please don't let them get away with it. They won't find suspects till later this week, and the raid is issued to occur on Friday. This is a staged event. The people hurt are real gut. Sorry. The people hurt are real gut. The event was planned. I guess that's a typo there. Don't let them hurt our rights. I am at work, so I used a copy of a picture on another thread. Also, please don't mention me. It will seriously hurt me. So somebody claiming to be a whistleblower here. And he had this picture that he posted. This will be your suspect. And this guy here, Joe Carr, he's, you know, from all that I've seen, he's a well-liked guy, a popular guy, a funny guy, had a lot of friends, seemed like a very average, even above average student, you know, got a scholarship. And he doesn't look, he looks like he could be anybody in the United States. He doesn't particularly, I mean, he looks like he could be Italian almost, you know. So that to me is important. The fact that they're Chechnyan, it's why would they use Chechnyans? It's not really about who they are and what their, you know, what their supposed goals were. It's it's about what the secret government is up to and what they want to carry out. And here, there's lots of evidence to suggest that the gunpowder is a major factor in the whole thing. Here is the report. Okay, so this is as we said. Now, this guy first he said he predicted it accurately. Okay, and this has been confirmed. And you can see here, 3,134 tweets and over 1,500 favorites. So this came out. This is a really important piece of evidence to reveal that there is indeed a false flag happening here. This is what it looks like. Okay, so now I'm going into a bit more in the gunpowder here, and here's from the final showdown, right? That gunpowder was indeed involved in the bomb. So here's from the Chicago Tribune. And the quote is, "At least one bomb, and possibly both, were built with pressure cookers as a superstructure. Black powder or gunpowder, a puzzling distinction, unless the Tribune is confusing the modern smokeless powder with gunpowder." Okay, that's a little ad that the person put into it. "As the explosive ball bearings as additional shrapnel, according to the current and former counter-terrorism officials briefed on the matter." So they're talking about gunpowder being a major part of the bombs that were used. And there's also this U.S. Senator, Frank Lautenberg, a Democrat from New Jersey. Here he is, an old frickin' dude. And he's talking about how the legislation, the amendment that they put in here for the gun thing has been changed to include the black powder and smokeless powder. Basically, the legislation appears to impose the same background check requirements for the purchase of any amount of black powder or smokeless powder that are now imposed on the purchase of firearms, including, of course, the famous Lautenberg Amendment, which retroactively bans purchases for misdemeanor domestic violence convictions. So here we go again. In the wake of the deadly bombings, attacks in Boston, U.S. Senator Franklin R. Lautenberg today announced that he will reintroduce legislation he has proposed in prior Congress to require that the sales of explosive powder be subject to a background check. He will also file the legislation as an amendment to the gun violence prevention bill currently on the Senate floor. It's outrageous that anyone, even a known terrorist, can walk into a store in America and buy explosives without any questions asked. If we're serious about public safety, we must put these common sense safeguards in place. While police have not revealed what specific explosive materials were used in Boston, what we do know is that explosive powder is too easy and too anonymously to purchase across the country. So this is very familiar. We saw this during Sandy Hook, how everything right away came out right away. It was like the first thing, start talking about the guns right away. AR-15s, all the families who were smiling doing the interviews didn't seem too upset and seemed to know exactly what to say to the cameras to help push one of the big issues that the Obama administration has been. I mean, it's his from day one of his second term. I mean, from the night he was elected, this has been his goal, to de-arm the Americans. So then we come to the second major piece here that they're reporting on here. Strange man in battle dress uniform. There's a lot of strange guys. The guys with the skull caps, I'm sure that many of you have probably already seen. You see, just minutes after the initial blast, this BDU dressed man's picture was snapped at the finish line, holding something peculiar in his hands. So he's got like a detector there, right? Mike Adams was able to identify the device as a Inspector Radiation Alert. used to assess dirty bomb or nuclear attacks. So he's walking around with this right after, or maybe it was used to trigger the bomb. Who knows, right? So, the question they ask here, the immediate question at hand is, if the attack was previously unknown about, why would this specialty military-grade device be on hand mere minutes after the bombing and in the hands of the man dressed in the BDU? Well, this is how they do it, unfortunately. I mean, I don't like to report on this. It's not fun. It doesn't put me in a good mood to have to say that this looks a lot like a false flag. I don't want this to be a false flag, I mean, I don't want to believe that the government is doing these awful things to, lead the people down a dangerous path where their rights are continually stripped for them, when their methods of defending themselves are completely taken, when the laws no longer can protect them, the courts can no longer protect them. You get into the totalitarian area, and then there's nothing that can stop the state. And one of the major things that I'm going to get into is the CISPA, which they quietly snuck through while this whole Boston thing was going on. In fact, it wasn't the only thing that they flew by or that flew under the radar. So I'm going to try and take a look at some of the stuff that flew under the radar right after I get through some more of these revelations here. This is something I think anybody who's kind of looked at it, we mentioned it the first night that we saw these guys that were sporting this Punisher symbol. It's like the Punisher from Marvel Comics, and I think this is a Navy SEAL Special Forces. They're called the Craft, right? And you got to check this out. This is how they describe themselves. The Craft International is a tactical training provider which offers a wide range of services and training to its federal customers. So it's a tactical training provider. And their slogan is, get this, violence does solve problems. Violence does solve problems, folks. I say, maybe I sound like a broken record, but where have we heard this shit before? You notice, and we had it when we were breaking down the Sandy Hook, that there was these covert type operations going on at the same time. The guy that they caught that was in full military gear, carrying a rifle out in the woods that you never heard about again and all that. Well, I'm not going to get into that at all, but I'm just saying this is the pattern that is the precedent for these types of events. And there were several of these guys that were videotaped. I saw a bunch of videos right around that time, and a lot of people were saying that these guys were probably responsible for planting the bombs. And you notice that they all have backpacks, and they all have earpieces in, so they're all talking. Blackwater, right? Blackwater, one of the military-industrial complex corporations like Halliburton, one of these nasty corporations that profits immensely from overseas wars and all kinds of covert and espionage type events, and also pushing towards a police state, which is where the United States is growing. I think one of the staggering statistics that I read since 9/11, this was probably a few years back, 2010 perhaps I read it, where the security forces in the United States and North America, I think Canada is very similar, grew by 10 times in that amount of time. So that now the number one job in the United States is actually security, right? Whether it's private or, corporate security or, it's these types of groups are out there, and there's a number of examples on YouTube alone of Blackwater, using riflemen up on roofs in places like Baghdad and shooting people, killing people. This is what they hire these people for. So they got their hats on, they got their earpieces in, and here they are again. one guy even has his backpack like he's getting ready to put it somewhere. And they're talking into their earpieces as well, listening in. They're wearing these khaki-like pants here, the tan type pants, and the same kind of jackets and the hat. And there's some more of them. I think it's the same guys, these two. Looks like this guy is exactly the same. Yeah, I think these are the same two guys. And you can see there's another guy there with them. And he's definitely with them because he's in between them. So there's a lot of, you know, why are they there? What are they doing there? It's incredibly suspicious. Now here we come to the backpacks, right? And this is a pretty interesting piece of evidence here, is that the backpacks look just like the ones that these guys were carrying. Not like the ones that the Serniev brothers were carrying, which one was like white and with black on it. And this is the inside ripped out here, so it's a black bag. You can see it's a black, and it's got the white thing here. Well, you can see it right there. So this looks, to me, I mean, when the images were all coming out, I was like, well, this has got to be the guy. It's got to be the guy. But of course, then you see the hat, and then it all starts to make sense. Here's Chris Kyle. Chris Kyle we talked about before. Paul brought him up, and it was a really important little story that talks about a bigger thing. This guy was, he was known as the devil, you know, when he was in Iraq. And he had killed, I believe, well over 100, the most career sniper kills in U.S. military history. The Iraqi insurgents feared Chief Kyle so much they named him El Shaitan, the devil, El Satan, and placed a bounty on his head. Right? So he worked in these groups, and you can see he had the Punisher, the same one. It's got 4 teeth coming down. If I go back up here, there you go. It's the exact same thing. And we see here SEAL Team 5, Operation Enduring Freedom, Semper Fi Mag, Blackwater. So what we're seeing here, folks, my belief, this is like the Skull and Bones, these secretive groups within our government that are carrying out these attacks. If you were really doing drills and you were really worried about a bombing, why would you be using Blackwater? Why would you be using this group, that this corporation that its slogan is violence does solve problems? You know, they're mercenaries, these people. Why are you using mercenaries? You know, so these people, this is really important. These people, this kind of evidence has to, and people have to bring photos together. They really have to work hard because, you know, there's something really sinister going on here. So this guy was killed, right? Chris Kyle was killed by a fellow soldier. And let me see if I can get to where they have the little story. Yeah, here it is. On Saturday, February 2nd, 2013, Kyle and a companion, Chad Littlefield, were shot and killed at the Rough Creek Lodge shooting range in Arath County, Texas, by a 25-year-old fellow veteran, Eddie Ray Ruth, who Kyle and Littlefield had purportedly taken to a gun range in an effort to help him with his post-traumatic stress disorder. So they took him to a gun range, and they were, you know, obviously that's what we're told, right? But of course, if you think about it, hey, we're gonna help you get over your fucking post-traumatic stress from being in war. Let's go to the gun range and blow things up. Yeah, okay, that's smart. So the media reports, the corporate media reports that this guy killed them, right? And the question is, did Kyle, did he catch wind of something that he thought was really sinister, and maybe he was threatening to blow the lid on it? And that's how they get rid of people. I mean, if people are a major threat, they just all of a sudden they're dead, you know. We've seen this time and time again. We saw it with 9/11. We've seen it recently. Aaron Schwartz, for instance, the guy there who was the one of the most successful guys on YouTube with millions and millions of followers, who is the gun Second Amendment guy. They're getting rid of people that are trouble right now. So, and then we get into some more evidence here: the bomb-sniffing dogs and spotters that many people saw. And you can see the photos right here. This is obviously before the people come in. You can see people are getting lined up, and people smiling. I suppose when they see dogs, it makes them calm, especially these types of dogs, which I love, like everybody else. So, did they have a preconceived notion, or did they? I mean, this is what they do. We talked about on the original night. In fact, probably for me, when we first did our podcast, you know, we didn't have a lot of information at that time, and we were all just reacting to it, kind of like we did with Sandy Hook the first time we covered that. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't get all the facts weren't coming in. And of course, the facts are flooded with all kinds of propaganda, so it's very difficult to get the real picture when they are constantly lying to you in the corporate media. So they had sniffer dogs there, and wouldn't they have easily have sniffed out these bombs? You know, what were they doing there? Here's the University of Mobile's cross-country coach. Where do they have his name? Yeah, Ali Stevenson, right? So this guy was quoted as saying that he thought it was odd that you know, he just happened to be near the finish line when the explosions went off, and then he remembered seeing the dogs and all the security around before, so he thought that was extremely odd. And he said, evidently here, I don't believe they were just having a training exercise. I think they must have had some sort of threat or suspicion called in. So I guess if you were going to spin this by the corporate media, you could say that maybe they were aware something was going to happen, but weren't able to stop it, which seems kind of silly, doesn't it? And you have dogs right there, and then I heard a quote today on the mainstream media where the corporate the prostitute was saying, you know how difficult it is to have an open air event and be able to provide the kind of security you would need to prevent a bomb going off. Yeah, I know. 26-mile event, yeah, you're not going to be able to cover every corner, that's for sure. But if I'm not mistaken, this happened right at the finish line where all the people were, right? So, you know, a little bit stupid, isn't it? You got dogs going everywhere, and you can't sniff out the bombers. So it looks more and more like they were trying to calm people down, and there was talk that people were being told just moments before the bombs went off to relax, that it was just a drill. Two cars, one coexist bumper sticker. So on the night of the April 17th, the two bombing suspects, Tamerlan and Dzhokhar Saranev, reportedly shot and killed an MIT police officer, Sean Coulier. It was then reported that the carjacked vehicle it was then reported that they carjacked a vehicle and drove to Watertown, where they were met by police and engaged in a firefight. The vehicle that Saranev's carjacked was described by the police as a Mercedes SUV. Here is a picture of the carjacked car immediately following the end of the firefight after Dzhokhar escaped from the scene. So you see here's the I guess this is the car, and it's got the coexist bumper sticker. It's kind of strange. I don't really know what coexist is, but it sounds peaceful. It's not a Mercedes SUV. However, later the media accounts posted this photo of the purportedly hijacked car. So this is the car that they were saying was a Mercedes, and then they showed this picture which had the coexist sticker on it, and then later they changed their story and showed this car, right? And it's a Mercedes, and you can't see the license plate, and so this one doesn't have the coexist sticker on it. And then we get to Tamerlan, who was a boxer and MMA trainer, fighter. And the FBI already had an inquiry going into him. So, I'll read this here. The FBI, on April 19th, the FBI released this information about the now dead Tamerlan Tsarnaev. Once the FBI learned the identities of the two brothers today, the FBI reviewed its records and determined that in early 2011, a foreign government asked the FBI for information about Tamerlan Tsarnaev. Sorry, I keep mispronouncing it. I'm not good at pronouncing Russian names. The request stated that it was based on information that he was a follower of radical Islam and a strong believer in and that he had changed drastically since 2010 as he prepared to leave the United States for travel to the country's region to join unspecified underground groups. In response to this 2011 request, the FBI checked U.S. government databases and other information to look for such things as derogatory telephone communication, so they bugged his phone, possible use of online sites associated with promotion of radical activity, so watching this guy over the internet, associations with other persons of interest, travel time and plans, and education history. The FBI also interviewed Tamerlan Tsarnaev and family members. The FBI did not find any terrorism activity, domestic or foreign, and those results were provided to the foreign government in the summer of 2011. The FBI requested but did not receive more specific or additional information from the foreign government. So they don't say which foreign government it was. I'm assuming it might be Russia. You know, perhaps it was another former, maybe it was Chechnya, who knows, right? But they didn't have any, did not find any terrorism activity, domestic or foreign. So they didn't find anything on him, but they were watching him. Then this, the ninth thing they put here is the setup. In an interview with the BBC, the Tsarnaev's brother's mother, Zubi Dat, denies that her sons could have possibly carried out the attacks. She claims it was set up. And then she's got an interview here. I'm 100% sure that this is a setup. I know my two sons are really innocent. He was controlled by the FBI like for 3-5 years. They knew what my son was doing. They knew what actions and on what sites of internet he was going to. They used to talk to me. They were telling me that he's a serious leader and they are afraid of him. They're controlling every step of him, and they are telling us today that this was a terrorist act. Right? So the mother doesn't buy it at all. Then finally they put up false flag, which is what we first thought right away. In the age where nation states are increasingly obscured by counterculture radicals, it becomes increasingly harder for our government to say, oh, Afghanistan did it, and now it must become, oh, they did it. The problem at hand is there is no real concise post-millennial definition of they, right? Which from a governmental standpoint is pretty wonderful. I agree with that completely. They get into the all the different false flags that were carried out or proposed, Operation Northwoods, Bay of Pigs, all those things that were done. 9/11 being the best example, period. And there's a lot of other evidence too. This is pretty good compilation, but people have broken down the some of the video evidence of the of some of the victims, showing that perhaps they used war veterans who had their legs blown off and were on the site and used with special gore and makeup. A lot of photos where there's the photo with the guy that had his legs blown off, and it looks obviously very gory, and he's got the cowboy running beside him, and cowboy's holding his one of his arteries, to keep from bleeding from death. But if you look on the ground, you look all around, there's no blood, and that's highly unlikely that there wouldn't be a big trail of blood when somebody's legs have been blown off. So there's a lot of people, photos. I don't think I prepared any of that, but I'm going to get into some other things that were going on. So one of the important things, I guess, is to say, while you were watching the Boston Marathon explosions, and they had everybody wrapped up, and that's how they do it. We saw it with Christopher Dorner. It was about a week long. It was very similar for this thing. There's a few things that happen under the scenes that are very suspicious. We had the fertilizer blast that happened in Texas, and it's quite something that this fertilizer company here was in a lawsuit. It was suing Monsanto. Right? So this is from Wall Street Journal. And as details emerge about the Texas fertilizer plant that was the site of Wednesday's fatal explosion and fire, a few tidbits can be gleaned from a 2008 lawsuit that the plant's owners filed against agribusiness giant Monsanto. The suit, filed as a potential class action in U.S. District Court for the Western District of Texas, claimed that Monsanto had artificially inflated prices for its herbicide Roundup through anti-competitive actions. The suit did not relate to storing fertilizer, believed to be at the root of Wednesday's blast. The suit was filed by Texas Grain Storage Incorporation. The company now calls itself West Fertilizer Company. So this I'm sure many of you seen it by now. Look at the devastation. This was like a mini nuke going off. It was really, really powerful. Now, some people are seeing the evidence of, that potentially a missile might have hit it. So I'm going to go back here right now to the story here regarding the Boston bombing, and I want to play this little piece here with the mainstream corporate media. I think this is MSNBC, and listen to the language here, folks.
I'll have to try to find out more.
When you look, Clark, at everything that happened as a result of two men and then subsequently just one man, the way an entire huge metropolis gets shut down, you have the Amtrak corridor shut down, the money lost, all of that. Exactly. Is this indicative of what lone wolves can do, or did we fail in some way to protect against something like this?
Well,
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and the way she phrases it, you've got two options, Is this just lone wolf, Are we unprepared? Is this, we're in a definite threat here. This is really dangerous. The language from the corporate media it reveals so much about what's going on. They're very transparent, if I think in a way, those of us who are awake can see how all this connects, and it's really the most frustrating thing in the world when you're trying to wake people up, like family members, like we talked about in our video, and they are drinking the mainstream Kool-Aid 24/7, and they believe everything that comes off the wire, and that there's no connection. But of course, our radio show has gone deep into Bilderbergs and all the secret governments that exist: Council of Foreign Relations, Rand Corporation, the list goes on and on. that really operate behind the scenes and are pushing the entire world towards this global one government, one world government scheme. Alex Jones would refer to them as globalists, and so they use these false flags, if you will, to push everyone in the right agenda, right? Push them in the right way, and then they use their most powerful propaganda weapon, the corporate media, to reinforce the message and convince the sheeple to give up their rights, that they will be safer. Otherwise, they won't be safe.
It's interesting. Those are two really different questions. They're related. As to the failure, I don't really think so, Alex. You know, this was not just a soft target, the Boston Marathon, but it was a really soft target. And by that, I mean it was an open venue. It was 26 miles, and there's really no way, certainly no way in an open, free society like ours to lock that down. We understand that there were...
Yeah, it's an interesting choice of words. There's an open, free society like ours. So there's no way. This was the quote I was referring to earlier when I was saying this guy here, this dude here, was saying basically, hey, there's no way we can secure an open air event that's 26 miles long. But of course, it all happened at the finish line. So I think it's a rather silly point.
Along the marathon route, not just in the days leading up to the marathon, but in the hours leading up to the marathon. On the other hand, though, the fact, as you say, that two people and then ultimately one person could lock down an entire city, cost this amount of money, and more importantly, cause this degree of anxiety, I fear will embolden other terrorists to think, well, it's almost impossible to carry out a 9/11 style attack now. That's the good news. But it's relatively easy to carry out a soft target attack, and you can kill a lot of people, you can injure a lot of people, and you can terrorize other people. So I think ultimately the best antidote to it is what Richard Engel was just talking about, and that is the way the Boston community came together, the way that the full weight of the United States government was brought to bear to help the Boston Police Department in this instance, the seamless cooperation among the federal, state, and local officials. All of that is a tremendous message to the terrorists that, as the president said this morning on his radio address, America will not be terrorized.
Well,
yeah, that's pretty dark. He's basically saying that the whole solution to it is that everybody's on board and that everybody does their part, which means if you're in Boston or Cambridge or Waterton, you're going to stay inside for a few days, and we might just come and knock on your door or burst your door down. I heard a lot of that was going on, where they weren't asking people permission to check in their homes. They were just going in the homes. So that's the kind of cooperation that they want from you, United States. They want you to lay down your arms and accept the police state, accept whatever fucking nonsense they throw at us. There's absolutely zero evidence that has been presented on the mainstream media that shows anything that proves that the Serniev brothers actually carried this out. In fact, from what I've seen, it looks a lot more like those Navy SEAL Special Forces guys from that the military-industrial complex. That they seem to me to be the most likely people that have carried this thing out, and these other guys took the fall for it. And then you get these assholes in the media that are going to tell you what they want you to think, which is everybody's got to come on board. We're going to beat this together, and the way that we're going to beat it, of course, is allowing a police state to emerge. Very, very dark. It's very, very dark. It's evil. It's just outright evil. Let's take a look at this one here. Look at this girl. I'm going to comment her in a second, but just take a look at this.
Brother bombers. Exclusive video and pictures of the suspects in the Boston Marathon massacre. Hello, I'm Diane McInerney. Paul Boyd is on assignment. We have the secret lives of the terrorists. On the outside, they seem to be leading normal American lives. But wait till you see some of the videos they posted on their websites. One brother was a Golden Gloves boxer who bragged about his American honey, although he said he could never understand our way of life.
A detailed picture is emerging of the Boston Marathon bomber killed in a shootout with police. Tamerlan Tsarnaev is the suspect in the dark hat in this surveillance video released by the FBI. He was a 26-year-old boxing and martial arts expert who once dreamed of becoming an American citizen and representing the United States at the Olympics. Tamerlan and his brother Zhokov fled the war-torn Russian Republic of Chechnya and sought asylum in the United States 8 years ago.
It's not possible. I can't believe it.
An uncle revealed Tamerlan called him just yesterday for the first time in 2 years and said he wanted to heal a rift in the family.
Yesterday he called me and said, forgive me.
Tamerlan enjoyed dressing in stylish clothes and drove a Mercedes, but he seemed to have problems adjusting to American life. In a 2010 profile in a Boston University magazine headline, "Will Box for Passport," he said, "I don't have a single American friend. I don't understand them." He described himself as a devout Muslim. "I'm very religious. God said no alcohol. There are no values anymore. People can't control themselves." He boasted in 2010 that he had a girlfriend who was half Portuguese, half Italian. He said she converted to Islam, saying, "She's beautiful, man." He was a 3-time New England boxing champion. Former Deputy Commissioner Joseph Downs presented him with one of his championship trophies.
He was in very good shape and was a very, very durable individual.
In 2009, he represented Team New England in the National Golden Gloves tournament in Salt Lake City, but was defeated. He was a regular at this Boston mixed martial arts gym.
Do you have any idea that they may be involved in this?
Surely if we had, we would have done something.
Just last year, his 45-year-old mother was arrested for allegedly stealing $1,600 worth of clothes from a Lord & Taylor department store near Boston. Ironically, it was the surveillance camera from a Lord & Taylor store in downtown Boston that captured him and his brother on video planting the bombs. Terror experts say there are still unanswered questions about what drove these two young men to become terrorists.
Where did they get their training? Or who inspired them? Are they card-carrying members of a terrorist organization?
Are they card-carrying members of the NRA?
Very important for the authorities to know.
Tamerlan's younger brother was a high school...
This chick here is something else. Look at this hair. Does it even move? Seriously. Lay off the collagen there, honey. And what's this belt for? This is the type of Barbie dolls they put up in front of you. And she's practically a Stepford wife. I mean, she's almost alien in the way that her...
wrestler with lots of friends, and he even went to the prom.
He looked like the All-American.
So they're gonna... He looked like the All-American. He looked, you know... This is purposely done.
American boy, but Dzhokhar Tsarnaev is living proof that appearances can be deceiving. This is a recent picture of 19-year-old Dzhokhar in a kitchen.
And what's so important about this is that they're trying to show that it could be anybody, right? That it could be anyone. As I said, maybe the main goal of this, obviously the gun grab is a huge part of it. Maybe this particular incident is specifically so they can target the gunpowder and push that into the legislation. One thing to note too is that this is a relatively minor bombing on the scale of things. From what they claim, 3 people dead, I think 150 injured, and that doesn't sound like the type of bombing that certainly when they talk about Al Qaeda, or they talk about places like Iraq or Afghanistan, usually the car bombs and stuff like that are far more powerful. So this seems like a very controlled event to me, and that purposely a smaller type bomb was put into place, or smaller type bombs, so that not as many people would die, perhaps, and that they could specifically put this thing in. And you notice how crazy the media was all over it. They blew this thing up, and like for a week it was practically 9/11, and nothing else was covered. So while you were watching the Boston thing, Monsanto went through. While you're watching the Boston thing, the report that came out labeling Obama, Clinton, and George W. Bush as war criminals was buried. You know, these things are happening while, and probably the biggest and most scary of all was that the Senate pushed past, put through the CISPA Act, the Internet spying thing that they and control, the whole censorship act for the corporations has gone through the Senate. Now the only person that can stop it on planet Earth is Obama, and you know the chances of that is snowball's chance in hell. So this boy here, this guy, is a perfect person to target because he seems like an ordinary person. Now he's got friends that are a brother here that is a little bit more shady in terms of the way they portray him, but this guy comes across as a likable guy, had a lot of friends. So this is it's a perfect person for them to use, because then when they start going after blonde-haired, blue-eyed Americans, Caucasians, you know, just anybody, because these guys are just like anybody that's not an immigrant, you know, people will be conditioned for it. They'll be like, well, we saw it with those Cerniev brothers, you know, you never know. I mean, everybody liked this guy, right? He's got all these photos, he's well-liked, so you never know. It could be your neighbor, it could be your brother, could be your best friend. You really don't know. Anyone can turn on the state and decide to blow up people. And therefore, we got to take away your rights so that we can protect you. That's what it is.
Looking like a relaxed college student, smart enough to have won a $2,500 scholarship from the city of Cambridge. But here's another photo of Joe Carr shortly before the deadly blast. The child you see circled is 8-year-old Martin Richard, the youngest victim of the Boston Marathon massacre. This is believed to be Joe Carr's Twitter page under the name Jahar. Believe it or not, the day after the bombing, Jahar tweeted these words, "I'm a stress-free kind of guy." One of Jahar's followers sent out this tweet, "I never would have thought that someone that smoked as much weed as Jahar would be on the news for terrorism." Joe Carr had been living in America since 2002.
Jahar or Joe Carr, they keep changing
And according to friends, he didn't have a trace of a foreign accent.
I told my roommate, like, oh my God, I know that person.
In New York, Columbia University student Rose Schutzberg recalls her high school classmate.
Don't walk with a phone, alright? This bitch is doing here. Don't walk with your phone like that. I see people all the time. Put your fucking phone away. I fucking hate that. I'm sorry. I know it's...
recalls her high school classmate. She says they were close.
From what I remember, he was very kind, warm, he was smart, and he was really, really funny. You just seemed like a little innocent boy to me.
Deanna Ballou is a former classmate who lives just a few blocks from Joe Carr in Cambridge. She spoke to our Lisa Guerrero via Skype while under lockdown in her own home.
He was very quiet. He was polite, nice. I know he did go to the prom.
This is Joe Carr on his graduation day from Cambridge Ringe and Latin School, a highly regarded public school whose alumni included Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. He's got his arm around a classmate named Zolan Kanayoungs, who could hardly believe his friend was behind the Boston bombing.
I'm very shocked right now, to be honest. This was somebody that I could count on for pretty much anything.
Joe Carr even wrestled on the high school team, well enough to have once been named Student Athlete of the Month. More recently, he was an avid member of an indoor soccer team at his college, UMass Dartmouth. How was Joe Carr identified by authorities? Apparently, his trademark was his white hat, which he always wore backwards. The same hat we see in the chilling surveillance images near the marathon's finish line. Classmate Eric Mercado.
I mean, the hat was a signature, turned backwards on his head, always.
And here's another image from that terrible day. Brother and brother striding together as they carry out their plot.
And here's another terrifying image of that day of two brothers walking. This is terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. There they are. That's the older brother. Right? He's got a backpack. He must have did it, right? There he is, the younger brother. It's a terrifying image. It's a terrifying image. Let's continue with this silliness.
They carry out their plot.
Authorities say they were fortunate to have so much surveillance video and pictures to help them identify and track down those terrorists. As Lisa...
You cannot trust somebody that looks like this. I swear she's an android, man. What the fuck is up with this chick? I have never seen this chick before, but she is fucking evil, man. I wouldn't be surprised she got reptile underneath that skin. How can you trust these people? How can you trust something that looks like this giving you what you're supposed to know about the police state that you are living in and willfully accepting? Because you're afraid. You're afraid to step outside. You're afraid to walk down the street. You're going to be afraid to run in a marathon. You're going to be afraid of public spaces pretty soon because a few more of these bombs go off and, you know, people will be terrified. They already are, it seems, right? And, of course, you put on Wolf Blitzer, and he will tell you every 5 minutes how his heart goes out to the victims. And, meanwhile, they're showing the explosions every 5 to 6 seconds on a loop in the background. They are, it is media porn. It is corporate media porn. They know it's a ratings hit. They seem to be well prepared, well in advance. They seem to know exactly what the storyline is. We get her Stepford wife here with her flawless hair that doesn't even move around, telling us.
These days, cameras watch every step you take.
Here's a wonderful one.
As the world watched the manhunt in Boston, we're understanding in greater detail how important surveillance video was in tracking down the terrorists.
We have 2 bags, 2 suspects, and we had 2 bomb explosions. It's a key piece of evidence.
Connor McCourt is a forensic video analyst.
The key evidence here in this video sequence is that the timestamp is minutes before the explosion. We see them heading right towards the bombing scene. They're going right...
So that's the key evidence, that these guys walked by a camera minutes before the bombs went off. They had backpacks. He had a white cap on. They did it for sure. Where are they from? They're not from America. Yeah.
Towards where the occurrence happened.
Police in Boston scoured every image they could get their hands on, looking for clues. It's a huge job because most big cities, like Boston, are plastered with cameras. From police to traffic to store security cameras, it seems impossible to go anywhere without being caught on tape. Look at how many cameras capture my image during my 20-minute walk to work in New York City.
It doesn't take long until I'm on dozens of cameras, along with thousands of people right here in the heart of Times Square.
This camera is one of many catching my every move, and you can actually go to a website and see the images live.
I know I'm being watched everywhere I go.
It's not only surveillance cameras, personal cameras were everywhere. Even one of my interviews was captured on someone's iPhone.
I feel a lot safer knowing that they're all watching me.
We're in the heart of...
Okay, folks, so that woman there says she feels a lot safer knowing that there's cameras watching her. This is what's going to kill us. You know, these people, these fat, stupid people who are smiling at the complete destruction of all civil liberties. They love the police state. As long as they can shop, as long as they can stuff their faces with their GMO'd, corn-sugared crap that's going to rot their fucking insides and make them die in the middle age, as long as they have that, they don't care. Take all the fucking liberties. They don't give a fuck. Look at this fucking tool for the media here with her pink coat, right? She just loves to be on camera. She just loves every minute of it. Watch.
Captured on someone's iPhone.
I feel a lot safer knowing that they're all watching me.
We're in the heart of Times Square.
How many cameras do you think are pointed in our direction right now?
Hundreds.
While we were taping an interview with security expert Pat Brosnan, many other cameras were recording us.
As an investigative tool, it's fantastic. And we see that now. We see what's happening up in Boston. And most of that's driven by the investigation on the images.
See, if you can control the images, then you can control the scene, you can control the story, so you can set up whatever scenario you want to set up. They're nowadays, with the ability to blue screen, green screen scenes, and you know, put people's images here and there, copy and paste, there's almost nothing they can't recreate to their liking. And if they control all these cameras, then you know they're going to control the story. So our hope with this one is that the people who hopefully are with their cameras taking photos and stuff, taking video, picked up something that can really show who really did this. If it really was these Cerny brothers, or if it was some other sinister group, which I really strongly believe it probably is, you know. So this girl here, she loves being on the camera. She's walking everywhere, and they're going to show her.
Camera after camera capture my image. When I purchase some newspapers, there they are. 3 cameras document every step. And when I went in to buy a cup of coffee,
while he's preparing my coffee, I'm being watched by 1, 2, 3, 4 surveillance cameras. Thank you.
Some see all this surveillance as an invasion of privacy, but there's no doubt that it led to the quick identification of the terrorists in Boston.
Yeah, wonderful. So maybe our good friends in Great Britain could relate to this. No place on earth has more cameras than London. This is the plan. The plan is you're not going to be safe unless we can watch over you. You're not going to be safe unless we're there all the time looking over you, whether we're policemen standing on the corner or covert operation guys with Punisher caps at marathons, or guys in the woods armed with machine guns when kids are supposedly being blown up in the school next door. You're watching the destruction of your liberties here, and it is a nasty, nasty, nasty thing to see, to witness. Here's some of the family reacting to it.
The Boston Marathon bombings. Their father was the first to step up to claim his 2 boys were set up.
I'm confident in my children's innocence. I'm not sure what happened there. Only God knows. No one in the household ever owned any weapons. I think my children may have been framed.
Their mother, Zubi Dad, shared her biggest suspicion, telling RT that her family was under constant FBI surveillance, raising the question why her sons were not stopped if they were supposedly planning terrorism.
In our house, nobody talked about the terrorism, and my son Tamerlan got involved in the religion 5 years ago. He was controlled by FBI like for 3-5 years. They knew what my son was doing. They knew what actions and what the sites on the internet he was going. How could this happen? How could they? They were controlling every step of him. Never, ever. This is not true. My 2 sons are innocent.
Ethnically Chechen, the Tsarnaev family first moved from Kyrgyzstan to Dagestan.
Anyways, yeah, so the family obviously believes strongly that their sons are innocent. Here's more evidence suggesting that they had more bombs. Here, this is off Russia Today. Reporting from Commissioner Edwards Davis told CBS's Face the Nation on Sunday, "We have reason to believe, based on the evidence that was found at the scene, the explosions, the explosive ordnance that was unexploded, and the firepower that they had, that they were going to attack other individuals. That is my personal belief," he continued. He said more than 250 spent rounds of ammunition were found at the scene, and that the ground was littered with unexploded, improvised explosive devices that we had to point out to the arriving officers. These guys are really dangerous. They had a ton of guns, kind of like Richard Dorner there, running up in the woods with 70 guns. He had 70. Wolf Blitzer said that, 70. Boy, it seems hard to believe that he would have 70. I think the sock puppet next to him said. And he said, yeah, it sure does. It's extremely dangerous. He's 70 guns, and he's gone up to the Big Bear, and he's a big black dude. This is how they do it, man. It's a joke. So back to the fertilizer missile, regarding the missile. Greg wanted me to talk about this. I think we're going to talk about it tomorrow. But Greg seems to believe that a missile hit this building, and there's a lot of other people that do too. So I'm going to play a bit of this video. So this happened during the whole Boston thing, and if it happened when the Boston thing wasn't going on, it probably would have been the top story, because it was an enormous explosion, and 15 people died, well over 100 really injured, and flattened buildings close by. Is just so. Here, I'm just going to show you this video, and you can make up your own mind. To me, it's inconclusive, but let's take a look here. It's going to be loud. If a streak coming across here is what people are referring to. Yes, right there. You can see it get bright on this side first. Anyways. Yeah, you be the judge on that one. But nonetheless, before the blast, as we said before, was the Monsanto lawsuit. And I got to really point this out, because conspiracy theory people are going to go crazy with this one. But 66 years ago this week, there was another deadly blast. Texas is no stranger to ammonium nitrate fertilizer explosions. Exactly 66 years ago this week, what remains of the nation's worst industrial disaster occurred when a series of explosions rocked the huge waterfront petrochemical complex at Texas City. And check this out, you're not going to believe this, but 1947 photo, refineries and oil storage tanks at the Monsanto chemical company burn. So it's exactly 66 years ago today when Monsanto itself had one of the worst explosions in American history. Coincidence? You know? You know how they like their numbers. So here is also happening at the same time, kind of a smaller thing, but it's dealing with the marijuana legalization in Colorado. They had a celebration, 420, and a lot of people were there, and then all of a sudden gunfire.
Well, this is 420, and it was supposed to be a mellow event, but 2 people were shot during a Saturday celebration centered around marijuana in Denver. People scrambled when bullets started flying through the crowd at a 420 smokeout at the city's Civic Center Park. Investigators say a man and a woman were hit in the leg. A third person was grazed by one of the bullets as well. Police say their injuries are non-life-threatening. Detectives still searching for at least 2 men thought to be the shooters.
There you go. So, you know, it's another example of, you know, people gathering and being, you know, disrupted. This is the kind of stuff that they don't like. Obviously, they don't like marijuana passing. They don't like the legalization of marijuana in places like Colorado. And they are going to break up these peaceful demonstrations any way they can, and nobody's paying attention, right? So when nobody's paying attention, it's the easiest time to push past things and not report on them, and or give them a fleeting report, not even mention them, put them on the back pages. And one thing we talk about here is Clinton, Bush, and Obama. U.S. war crimes over 3 administrations. On Tuesday, The Constitution Project, a Washington, D.C. think tank, released a 600-page report by its task force on detainee treatment, documenting decades of war crimes committed by U.S. imperialism and its military and intelligence agencies. The 11-member task force spent 2 years generating the report, interviewing over 100 individuals, including former detainees, military and intelligence operatives, interrogators, and politicians in numerous countries. The report details abuse of detainees during the Clinton, Bush, and Obama administrations and geographically covers such mistreatment in Iraq, Afghanistan, Guantanamo Bay, and the so-called black sites where the government hides detainees in secret locations in foreign countries, because we know they like to do that. So they basically indict Clinton and Bush. They talk about the post 9/11 administration of Bush. You know, this is a damning report, and it's completely buried. It's completely buried in the media. I had to go to the global research page for this. And of course, probably the most ominous of them all is the CISPA passing through the Senate, the censorship bill for the internet, which basically brought PIPA and SOPA and brought them all together and added a few more things, has quietly passed. While you were watching the Boston show. The controversial Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act has just passed the House and will now head to the upper Senate chamber for further deliberation. Rinse and repeat. This isn't the first time this has happened, but it still poses a major threat to the Fourth Amendment rights, according to civil liberty campaigners. This is the stuff that they really want to push through, so they can shut down people off the internet. They can go after all the targets that, all the people that they've got on a list. The internet is one of the most important things, probably the most important thing when it comes to the spread of information, and they are hell-bent on breaking the freedom that exists on the internet. This law, CISPA, will work for the corporations to shut dialogue and discussion and information down, you know. As they said here, CISPA will allow private sector firms to search personal and sensitive user data of ordinary U.S. residents to identify threat information, which could then be shared with opt-in firms and the U.S. government without the need for a court-ordered warrant. You know how dangerous that is? I mean, do you know how fucking dangerous this is? That means they can watch anybody at any time without a warrant, without any legal jurisdiction. They can watch you, and they can label you a threat, and then they can share all that information with the government, right? This means a company like Facebook, Twitter, Google, or other telecom technology or telecom companies, including your cell phone cell service provider, would legally be able to hand over vast amounts of data to U.S. government and its law enforcement for whatever purpose it deems necessary and face no legal reprisals. You know, and despite numerous amendments and changes, there are no requirements that personal data such as health records or banking information should be anonymized before sharing it with the government. It's hoped that the data can be used in real time to stop cyber attacks in their tracks or even trace back the source of attack, because cyber attacks nowadays as weapons in the virtual battlefield could lead to all-out war. The bill will also amend the National Security Act to allow U.S. intelligence services to hand over classified information to entities and people that do not have security clearance. The idea is that this will be used in order to help companies fight back against and prevent cyber attacks on their systems in the future. So it's a preemptive attack on people's liberties and freedoms, that the corporations are going to have the power, and the government's going to have the power to basically spy on everything you do. We already went down this road with the Patriot Act, but this is specifically dealing with the internet, and of course they will use the cyber threats, cyber attacks, as a motive to watch everyone, because that's how it works. You probably a lot of these cyber attacks come from CIA and stuff like that, just so that they can bring in these things. It's a dark world these days. We are facing perhaps one of the biggest threats to our current status quo when it comes to providing information. I think what I've seen since we've been on YouTube, we just did our year-long anniversary, and everybody should check that out. There's been a lot of changes, especially with YouTube and Google, about how they're monitoring people and how they're censoring data. We saw a lot of videos dealing with Sandy Hook taken down, YouTube pages that were just outright closed, and people's videos, like some of ours, that were frozen, in which the view count stayed the same for over a month, of some of our more popular videos. We were fortunate not to get hit too hard, but some people got hit very hard. This is the beginning, and where it goes beyond this now is that everybody who is going to be, typing in things like 9/11 truth or Building 7 into a Google search engine, they will turn up on a list. If you want to find out what the government isn't telling you, you're going to be watched. And everyone will be watched. Everyone will be watched. Not just the people looking up Building 7 or Sandy Hook truth stuff. Everyone will be watched. It's just that those people will be the bigger threats, right? And they will be on the list, and they will be highly watched. So this is where it's going, folks. This is while you were all so excited about the Boston marathon bombing, which killed only 3 people, and it's tragic that 3 people died. If they died, I hope nobody died, really. But if this whole thing was a setup, which it highly seems to be, and that these Chechnyan guys look innocent and are just perfect, they're just perfect people to pin these things on. It's a sad day. We're seeing the complete takeover, and it's happened right across the world. It's happened in Great Britain. It's happening in Canada. We have the same things going through, and it's happened in Australia, New Zealand, everywhere, Europe, you name it, right? They are moving us all towards this one world, whether we like it or not. And they're going to take away whatever freedoms we have left. And pretty soon, they'll have people so terrified that, just like after 9/11, they will be in small-town America, racing up to the local hardware store to buy duct tape, and plastic to seal their windows. They have got people hooked on the cancer, the lies of the corporate media, the hideous lies that the corporate media puts out to brainwash the people. I read 1984 probably 5 times in my life, and I'm seeing it every day more and more, what is going on, and it's sad. I'm really disheartened by this whole thing, and hopefully we'll have some laughs tomorrow when we do our podcast, but I didn't want to do this because I didn't want to go down this road, because it's not fun, it's not fun that this is going on, and people are cheering. I mean, people were out in the streets cheering the police when one of the brothers was killed. The other one was shot while he was in the yacht. Or that's what they claim. Maybe they put them there and they tied them down. Who knows? Who knows? You know, you can't trust these corporate media. So the only hope left is to really fight this CISPA, try to stop it any way that we can, and raise awareness about it. Raise awareness about Monsanto. Raise awareness about the Bilderbergs, which are meeting in just over a month in early June. And start getting everyone to talk about this stuff, because we're getting hit by false flags faster than I can even, read them out. It's one after another after another. If it's not Aurora, it's Sandy Hook. If it's not Sandy Hook, it's just Christopher Dorner. It's now it's these guys. I mean, there's something every week that they're throwing on us, and anybody who puts a magnifying glass to these stories can see how quickly the official stories just completely fall apart, and that there's almost zero evidence to support them. So talk to your families best that you can, talk to your friends, and I know the resistance, believe me, I've been hit with it, and I know it's not fun, but what else can we do, right? We got to talk about this stuff, because if we don't talk about it and get people awake now, there won't be a tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be in the camps, we'll have our barcodes, we'll have our microchips in us, and we'll have cameras watching us every single moment of our lives. Adios, folks. Hope you have a good one.